A mechanic named Roy Castellano has been running his own shop in Youngstown, Ohio for 31 years. He commented on our last investigation to tell us something that stopped us cold. He said he used to make his living fixing cars. Now he makes his living telling people their car is not worth fixing. He said those two sentences describe everything that has gone wrong with the American auto industry in the last 20 years. Think about what that means. The man who spent 3 decades repairing vehicles for a living has watched his job transform from a skilled trade into a grief counselor. And he is not alone. We have heard from hundreds of mechanics across the country saying exactly the same thing. The cars coming off the line today are not designed to be repaired. They are designed to be replaced. And that replacement cycle is not a side effect of progress. It is the business model. It has been engineered into the vehicle from the moment a team of accountants sat down with a team of engineers and asked one question: how cheap can we build this and still have it survive the warranty? In this investigation, we are going to pull back the curtain on the specific engineering decisions that are turning your new car into a 5-year rental you are financing for 7. We are going to expose the CVT Transmission Scam, the direct injection carbon trap, the turbocharged fuel economy lie, and the sealed component conspiracy that has made professional repair nearly impossible. We will show you the 2-tier product system the manufacturers never advertise. And at the end, we will give you the mechanic's short list of the vehicles that are still worth owning. To understand how this happened, you have to understand who is building your car. 30 years ago, every major automaker had a chief engineer whose name was attached to the platform. There was pride in the engineering. There was institutional memory. If a transmission failed at 60,000 miles, the engineering team knew about it, studied it, and fixed it in the next generation. Today, the engineering departments at most volume manufacturers report directly to the finance department. Every design decision is run through a cost-per-unit model. Every component is evaluated not by how long it will last, but by whether it will last long enough. Long enough means past the warranty date. That is the only finish line they are building toward. And because they are publicly traded companies chasing quarterly earnings, the pressure to shave cost out of every component is relentless and permanent. The result is a generation of vehicles built to a standard we are going to call warranty grade. Not good, not excellent, just barely good enough to survive the paperwork. The first villain on our list is the CVT transmission. CVT stands for Continuously Variable Transmission. It replaced the traditional automatic gearbox in millions of vehicles sold by Nissan, Honda, Subaru, and Toyota in the last 15 years. The sales pitch was simple: smoother acceleration, better fuel economy, lower manufacturing cost. All 3 of those things are true. But there is a 4th truth that never made it into the brochure. A CVT is not a transmission in the traditional sense. It does not have gears. It uses a steel belt running between 2 cone-shaped pulleys that squeeze together and apart to simulate gear ratios. That steel belt is under extraordinary tension and heat every single time you accelerate. In a traditional automatic transmission, if the fluid gets dirty, you change the fluid. In most modern CVT units, the manufacturers call the fluid lifetime fluid. They seal the unit and tell you it never needs to be serviced. This is a lie of engineering. CVT fluid degrades. The metal particles from belt wear contaminate the fluid. The unit heats up, slips, shudders, and fails, usually right around 100,000 miles. The replacement cost is between $3,500 and $5,000 on a car worth $8,000. We have spoken to Nissan dealers who openly admit that the CVT in the Altima and the Sentra is a known failure point. There have been multiple class action lawsuits. Nissan settled one for over $277 million, and then they kept installing the same transmission. This is not an engineering mistake. This is a calculated decision to ship a known failure and let the warranty clock sort out who pays for it. The second engineering crime is happening inside the engine itself. If you bought a car with direct injection in the last decade, and statistically you did because almost every new vehicle uses it, there is a slow disaster unfolding on the back of your intake valves that your manufacturer will never warn you about. In the old days, fuel was sprayed through a port injector upstream of the intake valve. Every time fuel passed over the valve, it acted as a solvent, washing away the carbon deposits that naturally build up from oil vapor in the combustion process. It was a self-cleaning system. Direct injection changed that. The fuel now sprays directly into the combustion chamber, which is more efficient, but it completely bypasses the intake valve. There is nothing cleaning that valve anymore. Over time, carbon builds up on the back of the intake valve like barnacles on a ship hull. After 80,000 to 100,000 miles, that carbon buildup is thick enough to restrict airflow into the combustion chamber. You lose power. You lose fuel economy. You get misfires. The fix requires a technician to physically blast the valves clean with walnut shells using a media blasting kit, a process that takes 4 to 6 hours of labor. It is a maintenance procedure that most owners never know exists until the car starts running rough and the repair bill arrives. The manufacturers know this. They have known it since the technology was introduced. They chose not to redesign around the problem because the engines were more efficient on paper and efficiency numbers sell cars. The long-term maintenance cost lands on you. The third failure is the turbocharged engine lie. Walk into any dealership today and you will see 4-cylinder turbocharged engines being sold as the performance upgrade. A 2.0-liter turbocharged engine with 300 horsepower sounds like an engineering miracle. And it is, for the first 60,000 miles. Here is what the horsepower sticker does not tell you. A turbocharged engine runs at dramatically higher internal temperatures and pressures than a naturally aspirated engine. The turbocharger itself spins at up to 200,000 revolutions per minute and is lubricated entirely by engine oil. When you shut the engine off, the turbo is still spinning from inertia while the oil pump has already stopped. That hot, unlubricated metal bakes the oil that is sitting in the oil passages of the turbo. This is called coking. Over time, coking destroys turbo bearings. It restricts oil flow, and eventually it kills the turbocharger. A turbocharger replacement on a modern vehicle runs between $1,500 and $3,000 in parts alone. The fix is simple. Let the engine idle for 60 seconds before you shut it off every single time. But nobody tells you that at the dealership. They just tell you about the horsepower. Beyond the turbo, the higher cylinder pressures in these engines accelerate piston ring and bearing wear. The V8 engine in your grandfather's truck lasted 250,000 miles because it was never working hard. It had excess capacity. The modern 2.0-liter turbo is being flogged at the limit of its physical engineering every time you merge onto a highway. They have not built a more reliable engine. They have built a smaller, cheaper engine that mimics the power output of a larger one. For a while. Physics always wins. The fourth and most deliberate crime is the sealed component conspiracy. And this is where we return to Roy Castellano and what he told us. In the past, a car was a collection of serviceable components. The transmission had a drain plug and a filter. The differential had a fill plug. The power steering was hydraulic with a reservoir you could inspect. If something was wearing out, you could service it before it failed. A skilled mechanic could maintain a vehicle indefinitely because access was part of the design. Today, manufacturers have systematically sealed the components that used to be serviceable. Transmissions come filled with fluid the manufacturer calls lifetime. Rear differentials on all-wheel drive crossovers are sealed units. Power steering is now electric, which eliminates the fluid service entirely, but adds a $900 electric motor and a $1,200 control module. Wheel bearings, which used to be a $15 bearing race you could replace with a press, are now sealed hub assemblies that cost $300 and require a dealership-level scan tool to recalibrate after installation. Why are they sealing these components? They will tell you it is for convenience, for reliability, for reduced maintenance burden. That is the marketing answer. The engineering answer is simpler. A sealed component that fails must be replaced as an assembly. It cannot be repaired. And when the repair cost approaches the value of the vehicle becomes disposable. This is not an accident. This is the end goal. Because a customer who junks a car buys a new car. and a customer who repairs a car does not. The fifth failure is the software trap. Modern vehicles contain anywhere from 30 to 150 separate electronic control modules, all communicating on a proprietary network. When one of those modules fails, and they fail because electronics in a high-vibration, high-heat environment always fail eventually, you cannot simply replace it with a generic part from an auto parts store. The replacement module has to be programmed to your specific vehicle with your specific VIN using dealer-level diagnostic software that independent shops either cannot access or cannot afford. This means that even if Roy Castellano is the best mechanic in Ohio, a failed body control module on a 2022 Chevrolet Silverado sends you to the dealership. You have no choice. You are captive. They set the price, and you pay it. This is not a technology upgrade. It is a dealership revenue system disguised as a technology upgrade. So what can you actually buy? The answer is uncomfortable, but it is the truth. The most reliable vehicle you can buy in 2026 is a used Japanese truck or SUV from the early 2000s. Specifically, a Toyota Tacoma or 4Runner from 2003 to 2009, or a Honda Ridgeline from the first generation before the platform was re-engineered for cost. These vehicles use naturally aspirated engines with conventional automatic transmissions, hydraulic power steering, and serviceable components. Every wear item is accessible. Every fluid is replaceable. Every bearing is a standard size you can buy at any parts counter. If you need to buy new, the safest engine family on the market today is the Toyota 2GR naturally aspirated V6 or the Honda K-Series 4-cylinder, neither of which use CVTs in their truck applications and both of which have mechanical simplicity that punishes abuse without catastrophic failure. If you are considering a new truck, look at the base engine, not the turbocharged option, not the twin turbocharged option. Manufacturers still offer naturally aspirated engines in their base configurations because fleet buyers, rental companies, municipal governments, commercial operators, demand them for exactly the reason we just described: longevity. Fleet managers have accounting departments. They have already run the numbers. They know the turbocharged small displacement engine costs more per mile over 200,000 miles than the larger, simpler engine it replaced. Buy what the fleet managers buy. Roy Castellano told us something else at the end of his comment. He said that in 31 years of working on vehicles, the saddest thing he has ever seen is a perfectly good engine sitting on top of a transmission that cannot be saved. He said he throws away more good metal than he replaces. That is what we have built. A manufacturing system so optimized for short-term cost reduction that it generates beautiful engines attached to deliberately fragile drivetrains, wrapped in software that decides who is allowed to fix them. They are not selling you transportation. They are selling you a subscription to their service department. They are selling you a machine calibrated to need them, and only them, for as long as you own it. The way out is the same it has always been. Buy less technology. Buy more metal. Buy the vehicle that the people who actually use vehicles for work have always bought. Because the man who depends on his truck to feed his family does not have the luxury of buying something that breaks on purpose.